you guys remember what it means. Because you can solve inequalities, you can solve equations, you can solve systems of equations, you can solve what we call rational equations. There are a lot of things you can do. Logarithms, exponentials, those are shades of things to come. So what does solve mean? If I ask you to solve this, there's a process of solving that equation. That's not what I'm asking. I'm asking, what does solve mean? Okay, so I would subtract 3 from both sides to solve. And if I tell you x is equal to 4, what did I do wrong? What's wrong with it? I subtracted it wrong. How do I know it's wrong? Yeah. Wait, okay, what do you mean it doesn't work? Okay, one thing we're going to work on too is not using it. This is a lifelong skill. This is not math. This is communication. Yeah. What do you mean the right answer? I can do answers to this. 2 plus 3 is 5. 5 is the answer, but I didn't solve anything. I simplified. You hear the difference in those words. They sound alike. I simplified. She's on the right track. It. 4 doesn't make it. What's it? The equation. What? True. If you want to explain this to somebody, you got to be a little more particular about the words that you use. And you're going to have to get used to that because you're in high school. In college is even worse, except in college, there's nobody there to help you. So half the time, if you're at the University of Minnesota, they don't even speak English. Okay, so solve means to find the number or numbers that make the sentence true. I'm going to pound that into you. Because we have to be able to communicate. And if I go too fast, let me know. It's usually I go too fast, not too slow. And if I know what solve means, everything's so much easier. Now, sometimes I can solve an equation by looking at it. And we can look at that, and I don't have my seed chart printed out, so I don't know names. And you can see that this did not solve that correctly. What number would make that true? 3. And I'm going to say this again. I know I said it before. These are not the same equations. They don't look the same, and they're not the same. But in this process of moving things around, it's called the transformation, I get an equation that I can look at it and I can see obviously what makes that true. 3 is the only thing equal to 3. Could use 2 plus 1, by the way. That would also be true. Okay. What makes this true is not necessarily going to make that true, but it's going to be a candidate. Not all candidates win the elections, do they? No. But they're possibilities. So numbers that make this true, it's possible to make that true. All you've seen, really, are numbers that make sentences true. So you don't know anything other than that, but you will. You'll see that. Okay, so now I want to solve. And then there's a process. And this process was written down. And it's called an algorithm. Might as well give you the right word, because you guys can handle it. If my daughter, when she was 4 years old, could learn how to say her last name, that's not up there, at the age of 4, and I think she could even spell it, then you can learn algorithm. And it's just a process. So the first thing we're going to do is we always simplify. So we eliminate parentheses. Then, after we do that, it's probably distributed property of multiplication over addition. Then we're going to combine similar terms. And math people are notorious for making up our own language. So are teachers. In geometry, we have LR1, AR2. I don't even know what they stand for. I hate that. And teachers are bad about that, too. So I'm going to do that to you right now. Combine similar terms, I'm going to call that CST. We're going to simplify. Let me write that in red. I will save this lesson. So we will simplify the equation. And honestly, the worst case scenario that you should ever get when you are solving a complicated equation, and sometimes they're not even, the front side here is fairly common, very useful. Some of the ones on the back are much harder than you'll ever see in any class except a math class. But in terms of science or applications, I never see anything like that, not even in calculus. The worst thing you would see is ax plus b equals cx plus d. Should have at most two terms. These are called terms. They're separated by adding signs. We are speaking a language here. You got to know the vocabulary, because otherwise you don't know what I'm talking about. When I go to Egypt and I listen to the Arabic, I get confused. And how you say a word, the inflection, if I don't say it the right way, I'm not saying what the word means. Anybody take Chinese? And does it matter how you say a word? Yeah, it does. Well, luckily in English and math, it's a little easier than that. But we have to know what the words mean, because I'm going to talk about combining similar terms, and you're going to say, well, I don't know what a term is. You'll get it because you'll see me do it, and you'll say, oh, that's what I have to do. Well, we got to communicate it. And there are two terms here, too. So at most, you're going to have two terms on each side of the equation. Then you may go and solve and do the solve process. And the solve process, and this is for those of you who like to have step-by-steps, so I'm writing it out. We solve, and we reverse order of operations. So first we undo adding, subtracting. All of it goes. And then we undo multiplying and dividing. My recommendation when you undo the adding, subtracting part is to undo the variable part first, not the just plain old numbers. You don't have to, but I'm telling you, you will run into fewer problems. And you saw some of those because of the way the equations were set up. Okay, that's what we do to solve. I can't do everything by inspection. This one's easy. I can do that. So I have to learn a process to unravel what was done in the equation. And I could use arrow diagrams, but they get really complicated with parentheses, and I'm not very good at it. Okay, so we're ready to go and look at the homework. This is what Mr. Van Dyke would have talked about yesterday. Okay. I don't know if he showed you how to solve, but that's the process. Okay, how about number one? Were we okay with one? I think we should be okay there. And even on two, you should combine similar terms before you try to solve. Now, I don't like the way it's written there because of the two, so I'm going to rewrite it. I have three terms on the right side of that equation. That's a problem. Now, I could try numbers. And you know what was the first number that came to my head right now to try? What's the easiest number in the world? And everybody says one. Zero. Does zero make that true? It does, doesn't it? It's six. And I now looked at this problem. Everybody thinks I do all these problems and memorize them. No, I don't. Is that a true statement? What's 2 times 0? 0. I got lucky. I just decided to try 0. It worked. Okay, but that's not always the best way to do it. Great if it works. But when you get to a problem, even like this one, I can do a lot of that in my head, but you might not be able to. So before I try to solve and go through that process, I will simplify the right-hand side. I can combine similar terms. Similar terms are terms that are alike. And you know what's alike here. 1 is similar to 5. I know how to do that. Okay, I like the algebra because I didn't have to do much of that. But I can still do 1 plus 5. That's not that tough, right? So 6 equals, and notice how I'm keeping it organized. Some of you, and so far I've seen good organizational skills. But some of you, I don't really want to, are going to be a little bit messy about it. And then you get lost in your own work. So try to neaten it up and stay organized. What's 1 and 5? Because that's just something I know. What's 1 plus 5? 6. Minus 2n. And some of you may remember how to do these, some of you may not. Now, I said to move the variables around first. Well, guess what? There's a variable on one side of the equation that's the only one. I don't want to move that one, but I do want to get rid of the 6. Remember, I want to keep the variables all by themselves. So the way to undo that is we always undo adding first or subtracting first. I can subtract 6 from both sides. And I'm running out of room. But anyway. So 6 take away 6, and I'll put a little arrow here so we know where I'm going, because it is confusing, is 0. That's 0 equals negative 2 times some number. And I can do that by inspection, because what's the only way to get 0? Because I'm making you think now. Yes, you can divide by negative 2 and get the answer. Fine. But negative 2 times what number gives you 0? Well, the one that works is 0, so n equals 0. It's okay. That's thinking. So what about this one? Do I need to go through this one? It's fine. I don't mind doing it. Because everything boils down to a problem like 3 or 4. 5 is a little bit different, and 5 is one that can get us into trouble. So I'm going to rewrite this because I can't see it very well. I have goofy contacts. One of my eyes sees near and one sees far. And they're bifocal lenses besides. So I'm creative. I created my own contacts. It's kind of weird. Now, you could move the numbers to get the numbers on the same side of the equation first, or you can move the letters. I strongly recommend you move the letters first. And it doesn't matter which one. Do you want to move 8x or 7x? 7x. Can I ask you why you chose that one? I know why I would choose that one. Well, there still will be anyway. Some of you like to sort left to right. Another reason is when I subtract 7x here, I don't get a negative number. And I can get a negative number, but it's harder. So that's why I did it. Now, remember Mickey and Minnie? I talked about them too. They didn't think I was funny. And last night we had the same problem. Minnie knows how to count. She knows if I have 3 bones in my hand, she doesn't see them, doesn't matter. I give one to her and I give one to him, and she hides hers. And then she comes back. I want another one, Mom, so she can count. He doesn't care. He's easy going. That's why he's so fat. But anyway, this is Mickey and Minnie. There's Mickey, there's Minnie. You got to be fair. You have to have opposite sides of that equal sign. So if some of you are trying to add to the same side, that's a problem. Mickey and Minnie will not be happy with you. And then they'll bark. Well, they'll bark anyway. What's 8x minus 7x? 1x. Do I need to write the 1? No. But can I write the 1? Yeah. Minus 2 is equal to negative 9. Don't forget those negative signs. I know I don't like them either, but you can't just throw them away. And now, what do I want to get? I want to get 1x all by itself, so what will I do to both sides? Add 2. Those of you who are confused, the answer may be no, but are you understanding it a little better? Remembering it probably more than anything. X equals, I check in my head. I do it in a split second, but I'm teaching it, so I have to take a little more time. That's nothing. And negative 2 plus 9, if you can't do that, use a calculator. What is that? It's 2 degrees, and it's going to drop 9 below tonight. Ooh. Negative 7. Or you can think of your bank account. You have $2, and you have to write a check for 9. You're in trouble because $37 overdraft. Now, I've done so many of these, I can do these in my head. Well, not always. Oh, what number makes that one true? I can do it by inspection. Did you do number 4? What'd you get? 0. Because I like to always try 0 first. If I put in 0 here, I get 5. I put in 0 here, I get 5. And that's a true statement. A equals 0. Yeah, I was just going to say, let's do 5. Because 5 is one of those that I said you can get yourself into this situation and not quite know what to do. So you know what? If you want to do this, if this helps you, you always want 2 terms on each side. There is another term here. What's being added to 4m? If this helps you. It always helped when I did algebra years ago. 0. Now I got two terms on each side. Okay, and then what am I going to do? I want to get the m's on the same side. So what should I do to both sides? I want to get rid of it here and get it over there. Or vice versa, it doesn't matter. What if I do minus 4m? Now, if you don't put the 0 there, you might be a little confused because what's over there? There is a number there. It's 0. What's still left here? Not a 4, but a negative 4. Negative 4, and I know that in my algebra classes last year, because I taught the first half of this last year here at the high school, I didn't do any of these. So if you were in my class, you didn't see it. What's that going to give me? 0. Now, remember what the solve means. It makes it so easy. I want to find numbers that make that sentence true. Are there any? No. Just because you have an equation doesn't mean that there's an answer. Empty set. Or you can say no solution. There isn't any number that you can substitute into this equation to make it true. I might be able to get equations where any number I put in there make it true. It could be really simple. Let's make it, let's just make it 4x plus 2 equals 4x plus 2. What number can you put in there to make that true? Does 0 work? Yeah. How about 1? Yeah. So how many numbers make this sentence true? Infinite. Many, many answers. So all numbers. Now, do you want to know a little math shorthand because you don't like to write? That's like I don't like to write. You won't like geometry because there's a lot of writing in geometry. But we can say X is a member of the reals. Now, I do my R like that. Real numbers. You don't know anything about complex numbers or imaginary numbers, at least not yet. The actual way to write the reals is this way with a little extra bar there. I'm kind of lazy. That looks like an E. It's an element or member. Any of you guys on a sports team or in a club here? What kind of sports teams do we have here? Golf? Nice. Baseball? Track? What about you girls? Volleyball? Basketball? Get into golf. Especially if you're a girl. Many doors open to you if you're in golf. And you can be horrible when you graduate from high school, horrible golfer, still go to college and play for the team. Depends where you go. Not Minnesota, but there are schools where it doesn't matter. And it's fun. And the other thing about golf is you can be playing it when you're my age. You can be playing it when you're older than I am. Les Bolstad was 90 when he finally quit. My grandmother was 93. And the only reason she quit was she broke her collarbone. So golf is a lifelong sport. Not to mention that if you're in the business world, and some of you will become business people, you don't know what you're going to do. You're really young yet. But some of you will, and you know what? They go for golf outings. Nobody goes out and plays soccer. Might play tennis. But again, tennis, when you get to be my age, is if you stay with it, you're okay. If you don't stay with it, you're not going to be able to do it. Golf, I went out and played golf one time this year. I was fine. Actually, played better than usual. So golf is a great sport. Okay. And it uses a ton of math. How about number 6? Did you get the answer? Do I need to go back to the answers? Now, don't be afraid to say you don't get it. How about this one? How many of you got the right answer? Raise your hand if you got the right answer. There's a number you didn't. Do some of you got the right answer want to come up and show your steps? It's Friday. It's hot. It's boring here. What you do first? What could you do with these guys? Add them. We always want to go to 2 terms on each side. So that's how many p's? 8. Now, if I want to avoid the situation I had over here on number 5, then I really, really, really want to move the p's before I move the numbers. Otherwise, then I get confused. So I don't want to get confused. So my recommendation, not necessary, but my recommendation is to always move the p's first. I don't care what side they end up on. I just like to end up with a positive number. But I don't care. We're either going to subtract 1p or subtract 8p. Which one do you want to do? Those of you who didn't get it. Give me a guess. Subtract 8p. Line it up. And you know why you can understand what I'm doing? Because I'm being very clear about it. When you get sloppy and I got to read your work, I do my best to read your work, but sometimes it just doesn't work. Okay, well, I would have preferred to do it the other way just because then the numbers were easier. But what's 1p take away 8p? Negative 7p. If you don't know, use your calculator. 1 take away 8. Minus 1 equals negative 8. Now we have a two-step equation, and we need to be 99% proficient on that, which means you're going to make some mistakes. Not a lot, but you're going to make mistakes, and the mistakes you make are going to be silly mistakes. So what do I do next? Plus 1. And so I ran out of space, and I get negative 7p equals what? Negative 7. And then either by inspection, because I know what p is right now. What makes that true? I'm making you think differently, aren't I? What makes that true? 1. Yes, you can do this. If you don't want to think, then don't. Positive 1. See? Made a mistake. Silly mistake. 7 and 8 are very similar. Are we okay with those? And normally I would give you your handout, but I want to make sure you get this. 9 is harder. This is the problem, and I'm not joking, in calculus that students will have a tough time doing. Except, let's see if you can copy it right. And 10 is hard, too. So what I'm going to do is we'll do 9 and 10. I'll put the answers back up for the back side. Have you finish that? I'll hand out the other assignment that's for Monday, because Monday we have an assessment on this. That's why I said I'll do the problems. And if I do the problems, I'll show all the work so that you can find your error. But, you know, there's more than one way to do these, guys. So what should I do here? Distribute. Distribute what? What am I distributing? That's right. I'm distributing a negative 1. And remember, you all come from different teachers. So some things may be a little different for you. I don't care if you put the 1 in or not, but it helps sometimes. And you distribute the multiplication over addition. I like to draw the arrows. And by the way, well, once you get your iPads, you can do colors. That's easy. But before that, if you're doing it on paper pencil, I have markers. I have colored pencils. So what's this going to give me? A negative 1 times x. This is pretty tough up back there. That's a negative 1x. What's this going to give me? This is where the mistake is. Negative 4. If you don't make that mistake, be proud of yourself. It's a negative 4. Now, which ones are similar here? I don't want the x all by itself. What has to go away? Plus 4. Well, that was all that we did that was different yesterday. That should be all we did. So I'm going to get what? I'm going to put a little arrow here because I ran out of space. What's a negative 8 plus 4? Negative 4 equals negative x, or negative 1x. I don't like the way that looks. Come back to read it later. I'll be able to read it because it's my handwriting, but you might not. Now let's think. What number makes that true? I can't think of your last name. I just know it's kind of long in the back at the end. Yeah, what's your first name? Chris. What makes that true? What number can you put in there that makes a true statement? Is that true? Let's check. Negative 4, negative times a negative 4. Is that true? What's a negative negative 4? It's 4. Is that true? No. So what's the answer? Yes. What could you do if you want to show your work? I'd like to see you start looking at things and seeing things. I could multiply by a negative 1 because I don't like that negative there, and a negative 1. Okay? So Chris, what'd you get for the next line? If you haven't done it, do it right now. You can come up and do it if you want. Come on, you guys are young. My seniors, I expect this. I don't know what the answer is. I can't do that by inspection. Oh, yes, I can. What's the answer? Not 20. It's 0. Because if I try 0, it works. But let's do the problem. Okay, so it tells me if you're getting 20, we got to look at something's not quite right. Remember, that's my job. My job is to help you learn how to do this correctly. And the only way I know is for you to tell me that you got the answer wrong. It's, and that's okay if you get the answer wrong. If you got all the right answers, guess what? You're in the wrong class. It's too easy. I could put you in first grade math, right? You all get everything right. Oh, you make little errors, because we all make little errors. That's the difference between an A and a B. C means, well, maybe you're not quite getting it, and if you're below that, we got troubles. So what does this give us? A negative 6 times a negative 4. 24x. And now here's where the mistake could be. It's a negative 4 times a negative 3. Do you want me to change that plus a negative, or are you okay with this? So it's plus 12. I want 24x. I want that x by itself. So what has to go? The plus 12. It's always the constant, the number. We move the letters last, and that's the safest thing you can do. What does this give me? 0 equals 24 times some number. I don't want you to divide by 24. I want you to look at that and say, what's the only number that makes that true? Because we are going to come into this theorem again. If I multiply two numbers and the answer is 0, what does one of them have to be? 0. You just learned zero product property, which we're going to use in our quadratic piece. This is quadratic algebra. Okay. Let me get the answers to the back side. If you haven't done the back side, do that. Now, how do you study for an assessment? You know you have an assessment. You do the problems again. Can you get the right answers? Now, if you have truly done your homework, I'm going to erase this. If you have truly done your homework and done a nice job at it, you copy what you've done. And I know some of you just don't know how to take tests, so I'm teaching you right now. Okay? You go and you do the problem again. Some of these got complicated. Honestly, what you saw on the first side is probably as hard as it ever gets in calc. It doesn't get any harder than that. No, maybe some fractions. Number 12, you would have to be able to do 11, 13, 14, even 15 is more complicated than I run into calc in science. Usually I don't get all these extra little terms. And maybe there's one here you'd like me to do. Which one? 13? I don't care. But I'll let you check your answers. 20? Oh, yeah, 20 is pretty nasty. Okay, let me. So, I don't know how hard the quizzes are, but these are going to be some more practice. But I'm going to have to find, either find the answers or I'll have to work them out. And it just takes me a little time, although I work them pretty fast. Oh, time is fun. So my guess is that on Monday you will have time to ask me questions. I haven't looked at the assessment, but generally the assessments aren't that long. And then you'll take the assessment, no homework Monday night, yay. And then on Tuesday, you'll have your iPads. Do not forget to charge your iPad on Monday night. And you're going to bring it all charged up. And then we're going to do some videos on that. And we're going to learn about Notability, how you're going to submit assignments to me on Schoology. Well, if you use your time in class, there'll be no homework. Remember, I had to reteach yesterday's. Yeah, you'll have something to work on, but it won't be stuff to take home. Yeah. Then what's there? 18 works? 14? Oh, 18 times 5. Well, let's find out. 18 times 5 times 18 plus 34 is that equal to negative 2, 1 minus 7 times 18? Whoops, forgot the 1. That's 90? Maybe not, that answer could be wrong. I don't know. Negative 2, 1 minus, and 7 times 18 is 126? No, that's it. So this is 124, and this is a negative 2 times a negative 125. Did you forget the negative 2? Let's go do it. Okay? Let's do it. It's not nice to write on the. You asked me. You said this was a solution. I just substituted in. Did it make a true statement? It did not. Yeah. No, you can simplify inside the parentheses, or you can distribute. Let's go look at. Let's do the problem. Because now when I do the problem with my solve process, I'm going to have to do those parentheses. Okay, I can't see what I'm doing. It's probably this one. Don't do that. Okay, which number was this? 14. Assuming that everything's copied correctly. Okay, so let's do the parentheses. Normally, I would take 1 minus 7, and if I could do it, I just can't. So when we distribute, that's going to give you a negative 2, and then it's going to be what? Negative 2 times negative 7 is plus 14n. So that's the first place you look. Did you distribute correctly? And now I'm being sloppy about my vocabulary. It's the distributive property of multiplication over subtraction here. Yeah, unfortunately, you got to follow the rules. Oh, yeah, how many of you guys in sports? Don't you have to follow the rules? Yes, you do. Well, if you're a golfer, you have to follow the rules. Okay, so what are we going to do now? Everybody should be doing the problem with me or working on the new one. I don't care. You got it right? Wonderful. What do you want to move now? Do you want to move the ends or the numbers? Because the rest of you all got it right? Did you get number 14 right? Yeah. You shouldn't be getting a decimal. You should get a fraction. Which number are you doing? Are you on the new one? Okay, let's look at the new one, which I don't have any answers to. So I'm just going to add a page here, and I'll label this the green. What number? I believe you're going to get only nice answers. So if you're getting decimals or fractions, because we want you to be successful, then you did something wrong. Probably. I'm looking at, in particular, which number are you thinking about? No, that one works. Let's do 4. Because now, I've been teaching 35 years. I know what's the easiest way to do these problems out in the back. Guys, listen up. I know the easiest way to do these problems. This is my 35th year of teaching this. I've been doing this for a long time. Some of you may want to start moving things around. Never. We always simplify each side. So what is the right-hand side going to give you? What's a negative 5n and a negative 2n? And if you don't like the fact, let's make it plus a negative. Now it's easy. So it's negative 7n. Now that's times. Negative 7 times what? Gives you nothing. 0. You can divide by negative 7. That's fine, but I want you to start knowing zero product property because we're going to be doing it, except it's going to be other things more complicated. If the product of two numbers is 0, then one of them has to be 0. Did you get the right answers on the blue one? No, you got a decimal there on the blue one. Oh, we were going to do number 20. Let's do number 20 on the blue. We'll find it. Maybe, maybe not. I think I added a page by accident. Okay, I'll just write it out. Who cares? Because I don't like it anyway. Okay, number 20. And I expect you to have questions on 20. It's hard. Now, if you want me to write this out, scan it, and post it, I can. All you have to do is ask. I haven't looked at it, probably not quite as hard. They're usually not as hard as the homework. But did I copy it right? That's the first thing. You got to look at each side of the equation. So you just break it into small pieces. What's the first thing you should do? How about if we distribute that? Let's do it. Because remember, we want to eliminate our parentheses first. -5. Okay, hard part. What's that going to be next? 2 negatives make a positive. Okay, so there's one place you can make a mistake. Not hard to make a mistake on that. Now, how do you get better at it? You golfers out there, you practice shot after shot after shot. Those guys are amazing. Watch the Pro Tour, and they take shots from under trees, through trees, out of sand traps, and they put the ball right next to the pin. Well, that didn't just happen, you guys. They practice. So now let's do this one. What's this going to give you? -40. Some of you may be adding. We're multiplying. That's multiplication over the subtraction. And what's this going to give me? Again, here's where the mistake most likely will happen. -10 equals, and can I add anything here? Can I simplify that? Yeah. Always simplify. You never start to solve until you've got, at most, 2 on each side. This is what? -12x. Remember, no more than 30 minutes outside of class. Assuming you're using your time in class. At the moment, even. Okay. Can you combine anything here that's alike? If you've got 4 terms there, you bet you can. A -5 is like a -10. So I'm going to get what there? -15. These guys are alike. Now, if you need a calculator to do that right, then take one. It's going to be minus what? Anybody know? Chris, you know what that is? +25 and -40. By the way, I can easily move your seat through. -15x. Okay, did those equals -12x. Now, I want the x's on the same side of the equation. I can do a lot of things, but there's the most efficient ways to do this first. Add what to both sides? Add what to both sides? Add 15x. Okay, some of you don't want to include the x's. Oh, I'll worry about that later. No, you won't, because it's wrong. And I'll mark it wrong. And on the advanced placement exam in calculus, if you do the math, this kind of math wrong, even if you have the right answer, they don't read it. It's wrong. So you have to have correct mathematics. The minute you don't have correct mathematics, you're in trouble. Okay, so what am I left with here? -15 equals, that's nothing. Cross it out if you'd like. And what's this going to give you? -12 plus 15 is 3. And then what do you do? Divide by 3. Could you have just guessed and checked? Maybe. I'll get the extend page. Maybe I won't. There it is. So on the right side, I get x. On the left side, I get -5. Some of you want to switch that. It's correct. However, be careful, because you can't always switch things. And I want to do things I can always do. Always is a very important word, but I don't use it very often. Those who got this wrong or were stuck, Did I help you get unstuck? That's my goal. I'm your coach. I want everybody in here to get an A. And if everybody gets an A, you all get A's. And you get your A. It's not, oh, 5 people are going to get A, 5 people get F's. It doesn't work that way. Not at all, but you got to get it. Now, here's the deal on this. With the grading that we're going to be using, it's called Marzano grading. That would be what I would call an R4. I expect you to try it. I don't care if you get it wrong, get it wrong. But you know what? If you don't try, it will be wrong. So I want you to try. I want to change that mindset. No matter what you're doing, I want you to try. And if you get this and all of your work is correct to get to the answer, you get that point. That's what gets you your A, those R4s. Now, you don't have to get all the any R4s right to still get an A. You can just do R3. So there's 4 levels of difficulty. R4 being the toughest, R1 being like x plus 2 equals 4, something really easy. So if you get most of the R3s right, and I'll have to get the grading scale up for you and show you, then you're going to get your A, so to speak. So you can do that, but you don't have to get all the R4s right, but I'd like to have you try it. Now, when I grade it, I'll look here, I'll look at the work, make sure the work's right, and look at the answer. Now, if you make a sign error, x equals 5, you don't get the point. Sorry, that's not my grading deal. I'll check into that, but I'm pretty sure you don't get it. It's got to be 100% right. But on the other hand, if you're an engineer and you're building a bridge, there's no room for errors. Am I going to move you guys? It's only day 3. I know. Chris might be over there all by itself. It's day 3 to me. Yes, I expect good behavior because this is not an easy class. It will be. Okay, so 30 minutes outside of class, that's all you have to do. Good, 30 minutes a good time.